Good evening, friends. Today I thought I'll speak to you on investigation into the affairs of a company. I just wanted to make it interesting, so I'm going to say, it's about 15 items, 5 into 3. That is 5 in 3 bullets, we can say, in a PowerPoint format. So what I am saying is that whenever we talk about investigation affairs of the company, we must think about the foundation for appointment of inspectors to investigate into the affairs of the company. 3 sections are important. The first 3 is 210, 212, 213. Under 210, the central government may appoint inspectors in 3 circumstances again. Number 1, when a report of the inspector or registrar comes under 208 and recommends investigation, central government may order investigation. On intimation about the special resolution passed by the members asking for us investigation, yes, central government may order investigation. And in addition to that, public interest. So 210, 3 situations. 212 also is an investigation, but investigation is not by the inspectors appointed by central government, it is by the Serious Fraud Investigation Office. What are the circumstances in which SFIO investigation can commence? Is again a 208 report of the registrar or inspector, or an intimation of special resolution requiring an investigation by an SFIO, that is Serious Fraud Investigation Office, and in public interest. And in addition, any other department may require central government to commence an SFIO investigation. So 212 is second. Third is 213, where members and others may apply to the tribunal, that is National Company Law Tribunal, and ask for investigation on the basis of certain matters, evidences, papers, and the NCLT may order investigation to the affairs of the company, which means the government has to appoint investigation. So this is the basic first 3. The next 3 is what are the circumstances I was saying in 213, that is section 213, where the investigation could be ordered by the National Company Law Tribunal. There are 3 circumstances again. These 3 circumstances are, I'll just see 213 and read it for your benefit. One is the business of the company is carried on, being conducted with an intent to cause fraud, with an intent to defraud its creditors, members, any other person or otherwise. The business is carried on for a fraudulent or unlawful purposes. That is one. Second, the company itself is, persons concerned with the formation of the company, management of affairs of the company, have in connection with such formation, etc., is guilty of fraud, misfeasance, other misconduct towards the company or towards its members, towards the company, that is important, towards its members. Second ground. Third ground is, this is specific ground of course, the members of the company have not been given all the information with respect to its affairs which might reasonably expect, including information on commission payable to managing director, etc. Therefore, of course, the third ground is not a great one, but there are 3 grounds, that is what I want to say, and the first 2 are definitely very frequently used grounds out of 3. Now under 2 and 3, there are 3 classes who are entitled to make an application to the NCLT for ordering investigation. Of course, subject to the circumstances being in existence. One, let us take the first is the class of people who are members of a company with capital, without capital. When it is with capital, the section says, in the case of a company with capital, that is with share capital, members holding not less than 1/10 of the share capital of the company. Total voting power they are talking about. Therefore, suppose you have oppression mismanagement case under 241, 242, there you would have seen preference capital is included as part of the capital for the purpose of counting the 1/10. Here it is talking about 1/10 of the capital with voting power, which means preference capital may not have voting power unless section 47 operates. Or in the case of a company with share capital, suppose 100 people join together, they may have one share, but yet it is allowed. The second is company without share capital. In such a case, the not less than 1/5 of the persons of the company who are its members. So register of members, find the number of people. Okay, 100 people are there, at least 20 people should be there. So if the company has 500 members, at least 100 members should join. So that is in the case of a company without share capital. Of course, they should produce sufficient evidence to show that the investigation is needed. It's not an ordinary matter, it's a serious matter. Then you have the second class on any other person. We have talked about members, therefore, other than members, some other persons can also apply, showing the existence of those three circumstances, and or otherwise. The or otherwise has come to be interpreted as so motu. An application is made, the NCLT apne op on its own orders. There are therefore three classes where investigation may be applied for and ordered by the NCLT under 203. I want to talk about, very importantly, three allied provisions. For example, when we talk about investigation, we have to talk about investigation into the affairs of the company, and in the same breath, there could be cases where 216 applies, where investigation into the ownership of the company. Who owns it? Who holds the beneficial interest in the shares? Who holds the control over the company's affairs? Who calls the shots? Who is that person behind? This is 216. Then you have 219. 219 is another extraordinary provision where in the course of inspection, the inspector thinks that it is necessary to investigate any other association, body, corporate, or an individual also. So 219 is yet another important provision out of the three allied provisions, and that says where the inspector during the course of inspection is satisfied that he has to investigate any other body, corporate, or person, whether it is 210 investigation, 212 investigation, 213 investigation, this power is a common power irrespective of whether the investigation has come from 210 or 212 or 213. Therefore, 219 is second allied provision. And the third one is very important, that is 221, which is frequently nowadays used. And after the Nirav Modi's case, where Government of India obtained an order freezing of assets on the basis of an application by a creditor, here the government obtained an order in Nirav Modi's case. I think the second such order was obtained in a private matter was by me in an investigation to the affairs of UB Group of Companies. NCLT Bangalore ordered freezing of assets under 221, and recently you would have heard about Videocon case also. So 221 is another third allied provision. So we must remember, whenever we talk about investigation 210, 212, 213, we also talk about 216, 219 and 221. Investigation of the ownership of the company falls under 216. Investigation of other body, corporate and other persons 219, and freezing of assets 221. Important consequences under the Companies Act. I don't think there is any other draconian provision than this. That is, there are three important things. One is what is written in 2074 and similar provision 2176. The difference is 2074 is before inspection is ordered, investigation is ordered, and 217 is after. So here, whenever an inspector comes, registrar comes, he wants to, get cooperation, assistance from the officers and directors of the company, and you don't give that, there is a consequence. The consequences are common. Inspector for investigation, before investigation, inspector, registrar, cooperation of director or officer, whatever information they have, you have to produce, and if you don't cooperate, there is a problem. If the director or officer disobeys the direction issued by the registrar, inspector, what happens here? The director or officer of the company, if he is convicted of an offense of non-cooperation, disobedience, if he is convicted of such an offense, what is the consequence? Conviction, punishment alone is not the consequence. There is another consequence under 2074 or 2176, that is draconian, that says the officer, director shall be deemed to have vacated his office. It's gone, his job in the company is over. Statutorily it is discharged. That is not sufficient, that is not the end. You have conviction, punishment, discharge immediately happening, and yet there is another thing which is very important. That means he is disqualified from holding office in any company The director or officer concerned cannot hold office in any other company at all. So 2074 and 2176 is number one. There is a very important provision, and second important provision is 2126, which talks about bail. Now when we talk about bail, a bail is ordinarily granted most of the cases, but 2126, that is SFIO investigation, a bail is not going to be granted unless the public prosecutor has been given an opportunity of being heard. Notice must be given, and in case the public prosecutor is opposing the grant of bail, situation you see, public prosecutor must be given notice, correct? And suppose he is opposing to the grant of bail, what will happen is the public prosecutor opposes, the court must be satisfied on the basis of that material evidence, whatever it has, probably a report or whatever it is. The court must be satisfied there are reasonable grounds of believing that he is not guilty of such offense. So ultimately he is forming a prima facie opinion of what would have been the situation, what could be the situation, basis the materials. The court must form a prima facie opinion because public prosecutor is opposing the bail. So court has the burden of looking at it, seeing the materials before it while taking cognizance of the request for bail. It has to decide that, okay, he has reasonable grounds. I think this guy is not going to be held guilty at the end of the day. He is not likely to have, commit any offense while on bail for two conditions. One, he is not likely to be convicted of that offense for which the trial is taking place. The complaint has been filed. And second is, he is not likely to commit any offense when he is on the bail. Therefore, this is another important provision, 2126. Now we have done the 14 items now, 5 into 3. 15th item is 212.15. That is subsection 15 of 212, which says the officer's report, the investigating officer's report is a police report for the purpose of section 173 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. Therefore, when you look at that, you will understand that it is deemed to be a police officer report. What is the consequence? SFIO. 212 is an SFIO. An investigating officer is grilling you. You make some confession because of the manner of investigation. Definitely it's not going to be a nice meeting over a coffee shop. It's going to be tough. Investigating officer is going to be, he's the rank of the inspector, etc. He has the power to arrest, and bail is so difficult. So you're going to be tremendously under pressure, and therefore remember, you may make some statements, and therefore the law has thoughtfully said it is a police report as if it is made under section 173 of the CRPC, which means a confession made. It's not going to put you behind the bars. It's not going to be an admission or evidence under section 25 of the Indian Evidence Act. So you must be very clear about that also. So don't worry. Investigation is just as several decisions, particularly CLB and Bank of Baroda case. So it is just what I can say is fact-finding issue. Okay, I'll just take you through. This is the 15 is over now. This is a bonus of 3 points I just wanted to say. And what I thought was I just give you 3 principles. Of course, the case law is not needed, but there are case laws which will tell you that in 213 there are some principles. Number 1 is government cannot, the NCLT cannot say ROC to do inspection, RD to do inspection. Now, this is a very interesting decision because inspector may be appointed only by the central government. Inspector will be appointed by central government if NCLT says so. So remember this decision of the NCLAT in Nagarjuna Oil Chemicals Private Limited, where the order was directing the ROC to do it. It is for the prerogative of central government to appoint which officer is suitable for the current investigation. Therefore, NCLT can only direct the central government by order to appoint inspectors to investigate. NCLT cannot say RD shall do the investigation in 60 days and give report. ROC shall do. All these things are not within the power of the NCLT. Therefore, that is one interesting decision which you must be, one principle or proposition you can remember. And there are several such propositions. For example, in Manmohan Malik versus Simplot India Foods Limited, that was a national company law board principal bench decision. This is an interesting decision because it usually is the barium chemicals proposition is based. Investigation can be ordered only for unearthing the facts shrouded in mystery. It's not that you ask for a fishing expedition. No, it's not possible. Roving inquiry. No, not possible. There should be a clear case made out. For example, there are several decisions which say simply culling out information from the balance sheet, you cannot ask for an investigation because they are already known what. There must be something which is shrouded in mystery, and at the same time there should be leads provided so that this NCLT is satisfied. It's not a roving inquiry. It's not a fishing expedition. It should be like that. There will be credible information triggering the requirement for that. That's all, guys. Thank you very much. I think I have taken just 15 minutes only. So totally I have said 18 points instead of 15. I ended up saying 18 points. Thank you very much.